Rental discrimination is another thing that they are bringing into the Renters' Rights Act and making law. Now, discrimination is already illegal under the Equality Act of 2010. You should never be choosing tenants based on race, colour, creed, sex, sexual orientation, all the rest of it that falls under the Equality Act of 2010. If you are, it's illegal. But they've gone one step further, and what they've said here is we are no longer able to discriminate against children and housing benefit. We are not allowed to discriminate against them. Children, for example, you cannot advertise no kids allowed. Unless it's an over 55s block, then that's obvious, because the head lease determines who can live in that property. If it's an over 55s only building, you can't ask to move 18-year-olds in or children or whatever. It's over 55-year-olds, and that's the rule. But if you've got a 4-bed house, now I've had this before, where landlords bring a 4-bed house to me saying, market my property, Dawn, but I don't want kids. The chances are with a 4-bed house, you're always going to attract people with kids. I understand why you don't want the kids, but adults can cause just as much damage as children. But we're no longer able to discriminate. So what that basically means is you cannot decline a tenant on the basis of them having children, is ultimately what it means. And you also can't put in your advertising no kids. Now let's get to the complicated bit, housing benefit, okay? Because this is the complicated bit. You are not allowed to stop a tenant from viewing a property, applying for a property, or declining a tenant on the basis that they are on benefits. You are not allowed to do that. Who remembers when we used to put in our description, and I remember this at Lawson's, when we were Lawson's, no DSS, no thank you, you're not welcome, you must be employed. We are not allowed to do that. Okay? We have to assess every single person's case on what we're calling affordability. And if you think about it, somebody on benefits could be on benefits today and they are receiving an amount of money that they're receiving today, and I am employed today and I am earning the amount of money that I am earning today. Tomorrow, that person could no longer be on benefits, and tomorrow I could get sacked. But you see what I'm trying to say? I kind of get where they're coming from, that we should be treating everybody in the same manner based on affordability. Now, it is very unlikely that you will have a benefit tenant that will meet the affordability criteria of the average private rented sector rate of £1,000. It's very unlikely. Because housing benefit is always set at the 30th percentile, so 30% less. If they want us to accept people on benefits, why don't they put the housing benefit rate up to what the private rented sector is? It would make more sense. Why don't they give us some more protection as private landlords? But they don't. But anyway, that's another story. You're not able to, and I will say to you, please be very careful with this. Because as agents, there is a lady going around our agency circuit and she is calling up and saying, I'm on housing benefit and I'd like to view your property on 1 Acacia Avenue. The amount of agents that have said, sorry, we don't accept housing benefit, and she then takes them to court. And she is successfully suing agents for this. So please take this one seriously, because there are people out there that will just try and dupe you into just telling them no. So no DSS in your adverts, and calculate everybody's affordability based on the same metrics. Now, normally, insurance and mortgages, because this used to be our caveat, mortgage lenders, particularly buy-to-let mortgage lenders, will say, you're not allowed to rent to anybody on housing benefit. Anybody ever seen that in their mortgage restrictions? All the time. That will be gone. So basically, if it's in your mortgage restrictions as of the 1st of May, that will be null and void under the Renters' Rights Act. So you cannot use that as a reason. Now, under insurance, that will still be applicable if there is a clause in your insurance, but only until the policy renews. So if your insurance policy that has that restriction in it becomes renewable in 1st of September, it will no longer be allowed to be in there. But whilst it is in there and valid, you can decline on that basis, but be very careful. So you must not auto-reject applications. Affordability and suitability must be the reason that the decision that you've made to choose that tenant, okay? And the magic number, £7,000 penalty. So you've got 7 offers. You have the choice of those 7 people, but you have to measure them on their same metric. So affordability is going to be one, rental history is going to be another, because somebody that's got a rental history is going to be more favourable than somebody that doesn't, because they've got a history and they've got provability. Somebody that's potentially earning more, than somebody else is going to be, you know, their affordability is greater. There's a lot of factors that you can consider in order to make that decision. We have to remember, and I think this is where the problem is, these are your properties. These are your properties, your investments, and you have to pay the mortgage when it all goes Pete Tong. So you still should have some element of power to say, I choose them. I haven't not chose them because they've got kids or they're on benefit, because I want them. And any court of law ain't going to do you for discrimination on that basis. I strongly don't think you will see many benefits applicants that will meet the affordability criteria of properties in the private rented sector, because the benefit payments are just not there. We just have to remember that the one way to protect your revenue is this: rent guarantee. Forget guarantors, get rent guarantee, make sure that your asset is protected with rent guarantee. Even if it costs 200, 300, 400 quid a year, if your rent is in excess of that, it's worth every single penny. If you've got multiple offers, you have to make a choice. And let's say we've got a black person, an Asian person, a white person, a this person, a that person. Where do we draw the line? At the end of the day, you've got to make a choice. And the choice needs to be based on affordability and what you feel is the best tenant for you that's on offer today. It's normally provided by referencing providers, but the industry norm is 30 times the annual rent. I think that needs to be higher now. So if the rent was £1,000, they'd need to earn 30,000. You could earn £1 million a year. But if you spend £999,999, you've only got a little bit of expendable income. It really is just about, you know, doing the checks that you can do that gives you the safest comfort that these people have got that affordability.